You're listening to How to 20-something, the best podcast that helps both men and women navigate their 20s and learn how to adult across all aspects of their lives. We're going to focus on career, relationships, finances, fitness, nutrition, and all of the common challenges and obstacles a typical 20-something will face in this post-college life. I'm your host, Jess Diamond, and I am the CEO and founder of Jess Diamond Coaching, where I help young professionals get their shit together, gain their confidence, and own their life. No one prepares you for this adulting world, so allow me to help you feel like you are no longer a chicken running around with its head cut off, and that you actually know what the hell is going on and what your next step to take is. Welcome to How to 20-something. Welcome back to How to 20-something, where today's episode is all about helping you prep for an interview. Whether it's virtual or in person, there are definitely tactics you need to keep in mind and prepare for to help you stand out amongst your competitors. Because I know that even getting this interview was tough. So now it's a matter of what can you do, that's within your control, to try and get offered the job you're interviewing for. Now, some of these things may sound obvious, and that's okay. I'm simply here to make sure you're checking off all of your interview prep boxes so you can walk into the room, Zoom room or literal room, with your best foot forward and filled with confidence. Plus, what to do afterwards. I don't think any of these things need to be done in any particular order, so you can think of this as a checklist and not a step-by-step process until we get to the end. So, before the interview, you're going to want to make sure you have multiple printed copies of your resume to have on hand. Make sure it's as up-to-date as possible and presented in a professional-looking folder. You never want to assume that whoever is interviewing you has your resume pulled up or has even read it themselves, because there's a really good chance HR or the hiring manager read it, passed it through, and they're not the ones interviewing you. So if this interview is happening via Zoom, have one copy printed out in front of you and another copy ready to go on your computer in PDF format. If it's in person, I would say have 3 copies in your folder at minimum. And if you have a career path that includes a portfolio, then you need to make sure you have access to a hard copy of your portfolio and a digital copy. Once your resume is ready to go, you need to plan your outfit. Make sure it's hung up and wrinkle-free and represents you and your professionalism well. I would say avoid aggressive prints or neon colors, but also don't forget to show some personality, and don't be afraid to show some personality. They say dress for the job you want, not the job you have. I know I took that literally when I went in for a personal training interview a couple years ago, because I was like, business clothes to a gym feels really weird, and they say dress for the job you want. My rationality was, I want to be a personal trainer, so leggings and a t-shirt it is. And I have to say, I was appropriately dressed. For you, you're probably not interviewing for a gym, and it doesn't matter if it's on Zoom or in person, you should still be dressed in business professional wear. It's better to be overdressed than underdressed. It's going to help your mindset, your appearance, and your confidence when you pick an outfit that you look and feel good in and is appropriate for the work environment you are wanting to enter into. Up next is research. Most of the time, you know the name of at least one of the people who will be interviewing you. So whatever names you know ahead of time, you need to be researching them. Look them up on LinkedIn, jot down any notes you can bring up through conversation or to ask them about. See if you can find professional things in common with them, but don't stress if you can't. I had a client once find her interviewer's Instagram and TikTok and then loop in going to raves on the interview, and I was like, okay, so that's great that you found something in common, but you also don't want to go full stalker on this person. The other part of that is keep it professional. Look up their LinkedIn or search them on Google, but keep their personal life out of the conversation. You don't want to be like, hey, I saw that you went through a breakup a couple weeks ago. How are you doing? Like, no. I know that might sound obvious to some, but the reason why I'm saying that is because it has been done before. So, good things to find in common would be previous places of employment, locations, alma maters, mutual connections, volunteer experience, what they went to school for, and any other things under that umbrella. But not raves, not breakups. The next thing you need to research and have notes on deck for is the company you are interviewing for. Know their mission statement, values, the CEO, the name of the CEO, work portfolio, and how anything the company represents aligns with you and what you represent. Remember, you are your own brand in business, meaning you need to have a mission statement as well as know what you're looking for in a future business partnership, as that's what accepting a new job is. Similarly, knowing your own statement, values, and criteria is just as important on an interview because you need to remember that you're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you. I'll get into questions to ask later on, so don't worry about that just yet. But I know it might feel like they have the upper hand and hold all the power in this situation, but they don't. So don't give them that power. You have every right to say no to them as they have to say no to you. You guys are both looking for a good fit for the company because a bad fit is only going to make all parties miserable. Companies want to know how you're going to add value to their mission. So you need to be prepared for how you can talk about what you can do for them in a way that benefits them. Essentially, you need to be able to answer why you over all of the other people they're interviewing. And by answering that, you're not putting any other applicants down, but solely speaking on your behalf as to what you can provide to them. And not in some cookie cutter, overly repetitive way by saying something like, I'm a team player, I'm a fast learner, ready to be put to work. No. You need to make it unique to you. And you do so by pulling in your own experiences and the company's work and both of your missions. I can't really give you an example because every industry, person, and company is so unique, but what I can tell you is that you need to do your due diligence and practice speaking to your strengths in a way that supports the company's mission and goals before you get to the interview. The next way you can prep for your interview is by knowing how to answer some common interview questions. Don't try to memorize your answer, but rather jot down some key talking points with general questions that have a high likelihood of getting asked. Like, tell me about yourself. This is not for you to say, well, I was born in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. My mother is Pam. My father is Gary. No. This is your elevator pitch. A good way to think about it is talk about what you're currently doing, what drew you to this company or career path, what you're excited about in regards to the role you're interviewing for, and how you hope to grow with this role in future ones. Another question that's common is, tell me about a time a project failed. You need to know how to speak to that failure and what you learned from it to prevent your mistake from repeating itself. If you're someone listening who has never had a job, then you can speak about a group project or a school assignment when some mishap occurred, or make one up. Another common question is, why do you want to work here? This is why you spend time researching the company beforehand, so you can speak to the projects they do, their goals, and their mission. Another one is, what are your strengths and weaknesses? This is for you to be confident and not arrogant in your strengths. And then similar to how a project failed, speak to how you're working on your weaknesses. It shows awareness and accountability, which is what employers are looking for. There's also going to be future-oriented questions like, where do you see yourself in 5 years? All they're looking for with this one is ambition and alignment. Again, looping it back to company research, look at the company's hierarchy and use their terms for roles. People label different roles in different ways, and they could all mean the same thing. So use their language. Then tie in how you would progress to one of their higher roles and the work you would expect yourself to be doing within that role. Even if you don't give two shits about climbing their corporate ladder, because I know a lot of you are just trying to get a job with a good paycheck to fund your life, which is totally okay. The company you're interviewing for does not need to know that. But when it comes to answering these questions, I'd say the biggest thing that I want to tell you is to really try to answer them through storytelling. Humans connect through stories, so the more you can loop into your answers, the better. Instead of just saying, I'm organized, talk about a story that shows your organizational skills. Like how I once led workshops teaching other coaches how to organize all the information we got in our certification to be able to easily apply it and customize it in a client session. And the last question, that is always a trick question, is, do you have any questions for us? The answer should never, ever, 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 ever B, no. This is where the interview switches to your control. Good questions to have in your back pocket include, what does success look like in this role 6 months from now? Or what are the biggest challenges this team is facing right now? Or how do you feel this role supports the company's mission and long-term goals? Another one is, how many people are you interviewing for this role? And probably the most important one to ask is, when can I expect to hear back from you? And then thank them for their time and that you look forward to hearing from them. Now, prior to walking into the interview, you're going to get hit with some nerves. And nerves are good. They mean you care about something. But we don't want them to overtake you. So some good nerve management would be taking deep breaths, going in through your nose, out through your mouth. It could be playing your favorite song to distract yourself. If you're like me, then maybe it's sporadically screaming until it's interview time. You could jump around, throw a dance party, meditate, put a weighted blanket on you. Everyone is different in how they handle nerves. My go-to strategies are usually sporadically scream, throw a dance party, and then right before, take a whole bunch of deep breaths. I had an interview for a speaking thing back in October, and I did all my tactics. Was taking all my deep breaths for 5 straight minutes and could not, for the life of me, get my heart rate to calm down. We're talking 113 beats per minute when I was sitting, breathing deeply, and not moving. This is just something so important to me, and I was really freaking nervous. So, nerves are okay. They're normal, but preparation helps you stay in control of your nervous system when the actual interview begins. Besides, nervousness and excitement are like twin sisters. They are the same sensation in your body. It's your head that determines which one is going to take over. You get to decide if you're feeling nervous or excited. I find it's usually a combination of nervous excitement, but what I really want to make sure of is how you're feeling on the inside isn't showing up on the outside. Essentially, you gotta fake it till you make it. Because how you show up is super important. Outside of calming the nervous jitters, you need to have a smile on your face, a firm handshake ready to go, and open body language. Make sure you're not crossing your arms in front of your chest, which is most people's go-to comfort position, especially when they're nervous, because you're protecting your heart and your vital organs. But it's a closed-off body language. If you're someone who is prone to resting bitch face, then you need to be super conscious of what your facial expressions are doing from the moment you step foot on the premises. Not the room, the entire premise. If this is on Zoom, make sure your background is professional and clean or a blank wall. You can also break the ice with commenting on something in the background of their screen. I personally, as long as it's not really weird, I personally err on the side of caution when it comes to blurring your background. I think it comes off like you're trying to hide something and it makes you less trustworthy. Like, I'm going to trust you less if you're blurring your background. And I know this has also been studied when it comes to establishing trust in virtual connections. So you're better off having an organized background than a blurred one. For in-person and online, don't forget to show your hands. Don't be afraid to talk with them and use gestures. It's a predatory human response of when we see someone's hands, we immediately let our guard down and feel welcomed. So you want to come off as welcoming and friendly, and you do so by talking with your hands and making them visible. Also, when it comes to what your body is doing, watch your posture. You can lean in while listening because it shows you're not a robot, and 2, you're active listening. Just make sure you're not hunched over. So no candy cane backs. The best thing to keep in mind when it comes to this body language and posture is having a nice open chest. Or, as I like to tell my personal training clients, tits up. And finally, make eye contact. Don't look down. Don't fidget with your hands, watch, rings, bracelets. Keep your focus and attention on the person speaking. And when you're speaking. Because if you're focusing on something you're fidgeting with, chances are so is the interviewer, and they're not actually paying attention to the interview taking place. The whole point of an interview is to see if you are a good fit for the company. You've made it this far because you've already proven you're qualified and capable. So think of this as more of a vibe check for both of you. You're not trying to prove if you're good enough or worthy. You're trying to show how you can contribute to the greater good of the company. Again, even if all you really care about is getting a job that pays the bills. Okay, so we've covered how to prep for the interview, before you enter it, what to do during it, which means it's time to talk about what happens after. As soon as you leave the interview, don't spiral. Easier said than done. You're probably going to kick yourself for not saying something or thinking of a way you could have answered a question better. It happens to everyone, and there is nothing you can do about it for this particular interview. So there's no point in being hard on yourself for saying or not saying something. What you can do is write down the questions and answers you gave as best as you can remember them. This will help with future prep, and then you won't kick yourself for answering a repeat question weirdly in the future. You'll be prepared. Write down what you did well and what you need to work on for next time. And then within 24 hours, you need to follow up. Send an email or even a written letter thanking them for their time, mention something you discussed or something you learned, and that you look forward to hearing from them. Don't expect a reply to that email. Just do it for yourself as an act of professionalism and showing that you care about this role. You'll get a response when it comes to next steps or a rejection. Or if you've ever had the experience of getting ghosted, that is also always on the table, because I know I've shared my stories of being ghosted by places I've had an in-person interview for, and it's not fun. But at the end of the day, I want you to think of these interviews as a learning experience, trying to find the right fit and being able to market yourself accordingly. Because it is low-key a sales call. You're selling yourself and what you can provide for the company. It's my goal for you to feel good about how you showed up before, during, and afterward. Not as a robot, but as a professional version of you. Which is hopefully what this episode of How to 20-something helped you to be able to do. So, if you liked what you heard, if you learned something new or have a different tactic you can implement when it comes to your next interview, then please share this episode. Send it to someone actively job searching, post it to social media, and then don't forget to tag me when you do. Just help me spread word of this fabulous podcast so it can help all of the 20-somethings out there navigating the most confusing decade of their lives. And as always, I can't wait to be in your headphones again next week with another brand new episode.